In Dalat, around October, mist blankets the paths, and tiny droplets of water trickle down the old wooden window frames, reflecting the flickering glow of street lamps outside. And sat leaning back in her chair, eyes gazing into the indefinite space beyond the porch. The ticking of the clock echoed, tick, tick, like the tired heartbeat of a weary soul. Vi, her best friend from university, placed a teacup on the table and spoke slowly. Anne, are you sure you want to go to that mansion? I heard people say it's haunted. And turned to her, eyes clear but holding something indescribable. She gave a faint smile, her hand gently tightening around the porcelain handle. Vi, I have to go, no matter what. I need to find out the truth about that portrait. Vi shivered, swallowing hard. She glanced quickly at the old photograph on the table. A portrait of a woman in a white dye. Her hair long and loose, with deep, dark eyes that seemed to swallow anyone who stared too long. The photo was taken nearly a century ago, but the woman's features were still vivid, her gaze following every move. Vi shifted slightly, whispering, I don't get it. Anne, what is it about this painting that's got you so obsessed? And set the teacup down. Took a deep breath, her voice softening, because it was left behind by my mom. Before she passed, she told me, if you want to know what happened to your grandmother back then, go find that portrait. Vi frowned, shocked. You've never told anyone about this. And gave a half-hearted smile, eyes red with emotion. I never meant to, but now, there's no one left to hide it from. I need to know what happened to my grandmother, why people avoid mentioning her name, and why this portrait was hidden in a dark room for decades. The wind howled through the gaps in the windows, carrying a haze of mist inside, making Vi clutch her scarf tighter. She sighed, helpless. If you're really going, then I'm coming with you. And looked at Vi, her eyes softening. She placed a hand gently over her friend's. Thank you, truly. I'm afraid I won't have the courage to face it alone. Vi forced a thin smile. I'm not sure I'm brave enough either. But we're friends. That counts for something, right? Outside, the fog grew denser, covering the winding paths that led toward the forest across the hill. And there, an old mansion stood silently amid the mist, quietly waiting for those who dared to disturb its long-forgotten secrets. The old pickup truck rolled slowly along the narrow trail leading into the Tung Hill area. Tall pine trees flanked both sides, their dark trunks casting long shadows in the thick fog like silent figures standing watch. And gripped the steering wheel, her eyes never leaving the crumpled map on her lap. Vi sat beside her, nervously glancing around. She rolled the window up and whispered, I feel like someone's watching us. Anne, and didn't answer. She just smirked slightly. With all this fog, who could see anything? We're almost there. Look. Vi followed Anne's pointing finger. A large iron gate appeared, shrouded in the white haze. The rusty bars, covered in moss, twisted in an old French style. And at the top was a crumbled relief sculpture. Anne stopped the car and let out a sigh. We're here, the Le family mansion. Vi swallowed hard, her hands trembling as she pulled open the door. She stepped out, her shoes sinking into the muddy ground with a squelch, and followed, holding an old flashlight and the portrait in hand. Vi gripped Anne's arm tightly, whispering, I heard something terrible happened here long ago. The Le family's youngest daughter, Muoi, was murdered and found hanging in the art room. They say ever since then, bad things happen to anyone who enters. And silently stared at the portrait in her hands. The woman's face flickered under the beam of the flashlight. She pressed her lips together. I have to meet her. Vi's eyes widened. Anne, are you crazy? Meet a ghost? And smirked, her gaze cold. If her spirit is still here, I need to hear the truth. I need to know what happened to my grandmother. Vi shuddered but nodded through gritted teeth. Fine, but let's not get separated. And pushed open the old iron gate, its hinges creaking loudly. A musty, moldy scent rushed into their noses. Ahead, the mansion loomed in the mist, shattered windows, crooked roof tiles, walls covered in wild vines. Their footsteps sank into the thick carpet of decaying leaves. They moved slowly forward, and the darkness swallowed them whole. The front door of the mansion opened heavily, its hinges wailing in protest. The space inside was pitch black, with only an Envy's dim flashlight beams slicing through the floating dust. The air reeked of mold, mixed with a metallic, sour tang. In stepped in first, whispering, "Be careful, VY, don't stray too far." VY clutched N's wrist tightly, eyes darting around. "This place, it doesn't feel like anyone ever lived here. Why is everything still so intact?" In swept the light across the grand living room, faded oil paintings blurred by time, wooden statues cloaked in dust, and a chandelier hung precariously from the ceiling. On the far wall was a large picture frame covered in black cloth. And walked over and pulled the cloth away. Another portrait. Again, a woman in a white dye, but this time, her eyes were even deeper, colder. Her face was identical to the photo N brought. VY gasped, stepping back and clutching N's arm. "It's her, N, it's really her." N stood still. A cold gust blew through, lifting the worn curtain by the window, extinguishing the small candle on the corner altar. A soft click echoed from the end of the hallway, and tightened her grip on the flashlight. Voice firm, "Let's go. The art room's down that hallway. I have to see it." V's face paled, but she followed. Their footsteps echoed on the cold tile floor, mingling with the dripping of water from above. A few steps in, VY suddenly pulled N back, whispering in fear, "N, I swear I just heard someone call your name," and turned sharply, eyes tense. "Where?" V's voice shook as she pointed toward the darkness ahead. In there." A woman's voice, very soft, but clear. N swallowed hard and raised her flashlight. The wall ahead was stained and mildewed, and there was a half-open ironwood door. She took a deep breath, hand trembling as she touched the cold handle. She whispered, "If you're scared, you can wait outside." VY bit her lip and clutched the hem of her coat. "No, I'm coming." The door creaked open with a sorrowful screech. The art room revealed itself. Dim light from their flashlights swept across the walls lined with paintings, most of them portraits of the same woman. In the center of the room stood an easel draped in a white cloth. N stepped forward, carefully lifting the fabric. VY held her breath, eyes wide. On the easel was an unfinished portrait, the same woman's face. But the eyes were left incomplete. Under the dim light, the black paint still looked wet. And took a step back, whispering, "No way, who just painted this?" V's voice trembled. "And, look at the wall?" They turned. On the decaying wall, bold red scribbles appeared, as if written with a finger dipped in ink. "Don't touch the painting. Anyone who dares to finish it will never leave this place." A cold chill ran down N's spine. A sudden breath of icy air grazed the back of her neck. She spun around. No one was there, but the whisper returned. N, VY screamed, clutching N's hand tightly. "Run, N, run!" But N stood frozen. Her eyes slowly drifted back to the unfinished painting. The woman's eyes in the portrait had just been touched up by someone, and they were slowly turning toward N. VY yanked N's arm, but N's body felt as if it were being pulled toward the painting. The eyes in the portrait, now fully drawn, began to glow faintly under the dim light. A shrill sound, like an old string pulled too tight, pierced the silence. N exhaled slowly, her voice choked. "VY, do you hear that? She's speaking?" VY trembled, tears welling in her eyes. "N, there's no one here. We have to go now." Still, N didn't move. Her gaze was fixed on the portrait, watching the woman's lips begin to twitch, though it was clearly just paint. "Free me?" The whisper echoed directly into N's ear, icy and sharp. VY summoned all her strength and pulled N out of the room. "Come on, N, can't you hear? If we stay here, we'll never make it out." And looked back at the painting one last time. In that moment, the woman's eyes suddenly shut, and two thick streaks of black, like ink mixed with blood, streamed down her face. They bolted out of the room as the door slammed shut behind them. The loud crash echoed like a scream in the misty night. VY gasped for breath, tears running down her cheeks. I can't take this anymore, we have to leave. Anne, you're insane. And leaned against the wall, staring at the pitch-black ceiling above. No, not yet. I have to find the journal. My mother once told me. Muoi left the whole truth in her journal, hidden in her bedroom. Vi clutched her head in despair. And, please, let's just go back. And grabbed her shoulders, eyes pleading. Please, Vi, help me just this once. If not, I'll never know what my mother wanted me to understand. Vi stared at her, fear slowly giving way to reluctant resolve. Fine, but only this once. I swear, if anything else happens, I'm leaving you behind. And gave a weak smile, squeezing V's hand. I promise. They slowly climbed the old wooden staircase to the second floor. Every step echoed as if someone else were following behind. Vi glanced back several times, but there was nothing but darkness and mist. The second floor was gloomy. The bedroom door tightly shut. Scratches covered the surface, as if someone had clawed at it. The paint was peeling, and turned the doorknob. It creaked open slightly, releasing a rush of cold air. Inside, the bedroom was coated in thick dust. A four-poster bed with a tattered canopy stood in the center. The wardrobe and dressing table remained untouched. A large mirror on the table was cracked. Vi pulled it back, whispering, I hear someone crying, do you hear that? And froze. From the direction of the wardrobe, faint sobs echoed. They both held their breath, and tightened her grip on V's hand. It's just echoes, don't look. Just find the journal. Vi nervously approached the dressing table. In the first drawer, she rummaged through faded items, handkerchiefs, a wooden comb, a few old silver bangles. Then, her hand touched a leather-bound notebook, yellowed with age. Vi jumped, gasping, and, I found it, and rushed over and snatched the journal. The moment she touched it, a gust of wind blasted through the room, tossing the canopy and slamming the door shut. A figure flickered in the cracked mirror. Vi panicked. Anne, we have to get out of here. And frantically flipped through the pages. The handwriting slanted and messy, recounting everything about Muoi. Her betrayal. The woman who had her face ruined and forced her to hang herself in the art room. The final line was blurred with water stains. If anyone finds this, finish the portrait. Only then can I be freed from this place. And looked up at Vi. I had to go back to the art room. I just need to finish the eyes, only then can she be set free. Vi burst into tears. And, doing this is suicide. But Anne had made up her mind. She grabbed the journal and sprinted down the hallway. Vi clenched her teeth and ran after her. The art room door flew open. The wind howled inside. The painting was still there. The eyes remained incomplete, and placed the journal on the table. She picked up the brush and began to finish the work. Vi trembled, clutching her coat tightly, and touched the brush to the eye in the painting. At that exact moment, everything went black. A voice whispered softly, "Thank you." The next morning, locals found the mansion gate wide open. In the art room, only the completed portrait of the woman remained, her eyes now fully drawn, and a faint blood trail stretching from the easel to the wall. No one ever found Anne or Vi. The mansion was sealed off. From that day on, every time the mist returned to the pine forest, people claimed they heard a soft voice calling in the dark, "Vi, and help me finish the painting?"